I'm aware of press reports, I'm sure you are too, that the DEA actually closed 2 of 4 field offices in China last year. My question to you is, what are we going to do to reverse the trend of retreating DEA operations in China? What do we need to do to send this in the other direction so that we stop the massive flow of fentanyl precursors ultimately into this country from there?
The street and see the influence of tour buses with Chinese nationals coming in and out of Mexico City. Some of the biggest money laundering cases that were being conducted in Mexico City were of Chinese nationals picking up bulk load cash in Mexico based on the transactions they had with the cartel leadership in Mexico. This is extremely disturbing.
Some say, Mr. Cole, that when it comes to Canada and fentanyl, Canada is not a significant source of fentanyl in this country. Canada is not a security threat to us in any way. When the president, for instance, has used national security authorities to impose tariffs and other measures citing fentanyl and national security concerns, there's been many who's dismissed that. You're saying, though, today we need to be concerned about what's happening north of the border. The Canadians need to be concerned about what's happening with their own borders. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say, yes, sir.
I look forward to you serving in this position. I think you are eminently qualified for it. Your background is outstanding. Your vision for this at a critical time for this agency, I think, is much needed. I'll have some questions for you for the record, Mr. Serralta. Sorry that I didn't get to you, though you're probably pleased about that.
Hey everyone. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and join the patriotic movement. We're here to talk about the truth that others won't tell you. Today we've got a serious issue to discuss, and it's something that's affecting every single one of us. I'm talking about fentanyl, the poison that's killing Americans across this country, and specifically the role China is playing in this crisis. This is a crisis of epic proportions, and it's time for us to take action, and I'm all about holding people accountable. Now, recently, Senator Josh Hawley, a true American patriot, made some powerful remarks about the fentanyl epidemic in the US and China's direct role in fueling it. For those of you who don't know, fentanyl is now the leading cause of death for Americans under the age of 50, and it's coming from China in the form of fentanyl precursors, which are being shipped across our southern border and into our communities, our schools, and our neighborhoods. But Senator Hawley isn't just sitting back and accepting the destruction. No, he's calling out China, he's calling out Mexico, and he's demanding action. After watching this video, I will break down what Hawley said and why it should matter to all of us, right-wing patriots who want to protect our families, our communities, and our great nation.
Thank you very much. Congratulations to the nominees. Thank you for being here, Mr. Cole. It was nice to visit with you yesterday, and good to see you both here. But Mr. Cole, let me just start with you, if I could. I want to go back to the subject of China, which I think you've talked a little bit about already in today's hearing. As you know, official estimates put Chinese responsibility for the fentanyl in the United States at about 90%. That's a staggeringly high number. This is very personal to me because fentanyl is the leading cause of death in my state for any individual over the age of 18. I could say as a former law enforcement official in my state that you can go to any community in the state of Missouri, rural, urban, north, south, east, west, doesn't matter, and you will find all of our communities awash in drugs that are coming from across the southern border largely, and many of them, the precursors at least, coming from China. So let me just ask you a little bit about what needs to happen with regard to our efforts in China. I'm aware of press reports, I'm sure you are too, that the DEA actually closed 2 of 4 field offices in China last year. My question to you is, what are we going to do to reverse the trend of retreating DEA operations in China? What do we need to do to send this in the other direction so that we stop the massive flow of fentanyl precursors ultimately into this country from there?
Senator, thank you for your question. I appreciate the discussion yesterday as well. This is paramount that we re-engage with China with diplomacy, but also with strict sanctions and diplomatic pressure if they don't adhere to it. The other thing of note that we briefly spoke about yesterday was the amount of Chinese influence in Mexico as well, where they are sending their Chinese membership into Mexico, into Culiacan, into Jalisco, to be representatives and first-line brokers. And that needs to stop immediately. And the Mexican government needs to cooperate and identify who those people are and allow us to conduct legal judicial cases against them.
Say a little bit, if you would, about the scale of the growing Chinese influence in Mexico. I wasn't aware until you and I talked of the scale of this issue. I bet most members of the public aren't aware. So educate us this morning. What are we talking about there?
So, Senator, when I was there in 2018, it was common knowledge that you could see the influence in Mexico City. We used to walk out of the U.S. Embassy and walk over across the street and see the influence of tour buses with Chinese nationals coming in and out of Mexico City. Some of the biggest money laundering cases that were being conducted in Mexico City were of Chinese nationals picking up bulk load cash in Mexico based on the transactions they had with the cartel leadership in Mexico. This is extremely disturbing. This has been going on for years. It has not been reported. It has not been properly investigated. And we need to build this multi-coalition of federal law enforcement, U.S. federal law enforcement, with judicial tools to reach deep into Mexico, target them, and bring them to justice because they are killing too many Americans every single day.
What do we need to expect from our Mexican partners in this regard? What do we need to go to them and say, we need your cooperation with XYZ? I mean, map that out for us a little bit.
So we are more than willing, the DEA and the other federal agencies that are involved in the law enforcement end of building that capacity, showing them what good looks like, bringing in the Colombians to show them what the roadmap was 25, 30 years ago. Was it perfect then? No, but they have an amazing police force currently in Colombia. They went from monitoring 20 phone lines initially to have the capacity to 18,000 phone lines and above today. We need that same cooperation in Mexico. This needs to stop. We need to quit losing American lives to this poison that is coming from Mexico, fueled by the Chinese.
You and I also talked about the growing Chinese influence in Canada, which I think is also underreported and probably not well understood at all. Tell us about that. What is it that we need to be on the lookout for there, and what does DEA need to do in order to reverse the same trends that we're seeing?
I think we've seen an increase not only in the population there coming across the northern border, but with the ports in Vancouver and other places, key critical staging ports to receive bulk cargo of shipments of precursors and other goods. It is a key stakeholder for the United States to have more of a presence in Canada, more of a bilateral agreement with Canada, and more of an urgency to stop not only the killing in the United States, but they are losing significant Canadian citizens due to fentanyl in their country.
When some say, Mr. Cole, that when it comes to Canada and fentanyl, Canada is not a significant source of fentanyl to this country. Canada is not a security threat to us in any way. When the president, for instance, has used national security authorities to impose tariffs and other measures citing fentanyl and national security concerns, there's been many who have dismissed that. You're saying, though, today, we need to be concerned about what's happening north of the border. The Canadians need to be concerned about what's happening with their own borders. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say, yes, sir.
I look forward to you serving in this position. I think you are eminently qualified for it. Your background is outstanding. Your vision for this at a critical time for this agency, I think, is much needed. I'll have some questions for you for the record, Mr. Serralta. Sorry that I didn't get to you, though you're probably pleased about that. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you.
Hawley started by addressing a staggering fact. 90% of fentanyl in the U.S. is coming from China. That's right, 90%. It's coming from a country that has no love for America and wants nothing more than to see us weakened and divided. And the tragic truth is, these drugs are taking lives in every corner of America. In my home state, Missouri, fentanyl is now the leading cause of death for those over 18. This is personal, folks. This isn't just a statistic on a government report. This is real, and it's happening in communities across the country. You know, I'm sick and tired of hearing politicians pretend that China isn't our biggest threat. There's no denying it anymore. China is trying to poison our people, weaken our nation, and create chaos in our streets. How many more Americans need to die before we take this seriously? We need to demand that our government does more to shut down China's role in this mess. Senator Hawley was right when he said that we need to get serious about confronting China on this issue, and that includes sanctions, diplomatic pressure, and an all-out fight to stop the flow of fentanyl from reaching our borders. But that's just the start. We can't let China get away with this, ever. Now, here's where things get even more alarming. Hawley pointed out that the DA shut down 2 of its 4 field offices in China just last year. That's a huge mistake, folks. China is the epicenter of this crisis and we're backing off? What are we doing here? We're retreating when we should be pushing harder than ever. The Chinese Communist Party is laughing at us. They've been able to infiltrate Mexico and use the cartels as their delivery service for poison into our country. It's not just the drugs coming across the southern border. It's the Chinese influence in Mexico, where they're setting up operations, laundering money, and shipping drugs north. This is a global network we're up against, and our government is asleep at the wheel. We've got to get tough on this. We need to hold Mexico accountable. We can't let China's influence extend into our neighbors to the south. It's like a spider web of corruption and death, and if we don't act now, it's only going to get worse. Hawley's right, this needs to stop. He called for more cooperation with Mexico, and we need to make sure they're on board with stopping the flow of these drugs. If Mexico is going to continue to be a critical partner in our fight against drug trafficking, they need to put their money where their mouth is. No more free passes for corrupt officials. No more turning a blind eye. Hawley also raised a crucial point. We can't ignore the growing Chinese influence in Canada. That's right. China is now using Canadian ports like Vancouver to move fentanyl precursors into the US. And don't let anyone fool you, this is a national security threat. While the left and their buddies in the media will downplay the role of Canada, we can't afford to ignore this. We need a stronger presence in Canada, a better agreement with Canadian authorities, and we need to make it crystal clear that fentanyl is a top priority. If the Canadian government doesn't take this seriously, it's time to call them out too. Now let's talk about what needs to happen. First, we need to re-engage China. This isn't just about diplomacy, this is about making sure China feels the consequences for poisoning our citizens. We need to ramp up sanctions and we need to make it clear that this is a line in the sand. No more pretending like China isn't our enemy. No more sending mixed signals to our adversaries. If they want to keep flooding our country with fentanyl, we need to take every legal and economic action possible to stop them. Second, we need to fully support our law enforcement agencies. The DA is on the front lines of this war, but we're not giving them the tools they need to succeed. Senator Hawley is right to point out that Mexico has made incredible strides in its battle against drug cartels, but that didn't happen overnight, and it didn't happen without U.S. support. We need to ensure our agencies have everything they need, whether it's intelligence, resources, or training. And if Mexico isn't willing to cooperate, then it's time to take matters into our own hands. Finally, let's be clear, this is not just a drug crisis. This is a national security issue. Our children are dying. Our families are being torn apart. And yet, politicians are still playing politics with this issue. We need action, not more talk. We need to stop the flow of fentanyl and hold those responsible accountable. China and the cartels are at war with us, and if we don't fight back with everything we've got, we'll lose this battle. It's time for us to stand up and fight. We can't rely on anyone else to protect us. We have to demand that our government protect our borders, protect our families, and stop this poison from coming into our country. This is America, and we will not be defeated. We will not let China win. And we will not let Mexico or anyone else facilitate this destruction. Stand with Senator Hawley, stand with law enforcement, and let's send a message that we will not back down. Thanks for watching, folks. If you agree with me, make sure to hit that like button, share this video, and let's make our voices heard. Stay strong, stay patriotic, and we'll see you next time. God bless America.